all, let me thank you for allowing a discussion on this important subject in the House, as well as I thank my friend Mr. Gurudas Gupta for initiating a discussion on this important issue in the 60th year of India's independence. So we are today functioning as a democracy. 14 Lok Sabhas have been voted to power in the last 60 years, 52 onwards, 55 years. And so we are, in a way, making ourselves proud and also keep telling the rest of the world that we are a great democracy, a functioning democracy, and that's our edge over many other countries, including some of our neighbors. And therefore, this proud tradition of being a democratic country has been possible, amongst many things, because of very important fundamental decision that the modern states worldwide have taken, which we followed, is to separate the functions of the state into three different functionalities: judiciary, executive and legislature. So the harmonious functioning of these three guarantees that the institution of democracy will function in a proper manner to the satisfaction not only of those who really created a constitution, but to the satisfaction of the citizens of the country. But sir, over a period of time, we have been seeing a lot of tensions developing within these three institutions. And the question is, who is really right in this? So we always claim that Parliament is supreme. It is supreme. In a democracy, the people who vote the government in, who elect their representatives, the legislators, they are definitely the people being supreme, the Parliament is supreme. But so who guarantees that this supremeness of this Parliament can also be maintained, be retained, and at the same time, the citizens of the country will feel really assured that this Parliament as an institution, the parliamentarians as functionaries, are also serving the cause for which they are elected. So there has to be an institution independent of Parliament to ensure that they will actually make sure that Parliament is functioning as a sovereign body. And that function has to be discharged by a judiciary as per our constitution, as well as the people in the country very strongly feel that this is an institution which will actually guarantee this. So let us look at, in many areas, we are a very unique country. So I know in Delhi, for example, we are in these winter months of the year, and so we have always seen that there used to be a very big smog in this city. Delhi was considered as one of the city which is the most polluted one in not only in the country but in the world. One person called Anil Agarwal went to the Supreme Court with a private interest litigation saying that Delhi's air has to be properly, the ambient air quality of Delhi's air should be improved. So because of that single petition, Supreme Court directed the government, and government had to improve the pollution standards of this particular city. So an ordinary citizen anywhere in the country can write one postcard of 15 paisa, I don't know what the cost now, maybe 60 paisa, 1 rupee, and that postcard is considered by the Supreme Court and the High Courts in many states as a petition, and they have acted on it. So this is something which is very unique in India. I don't think there is any other country in the world where you will find that ordinary citizen can straight away go to the Supreme Court and can get justice for what a plea is making. So I remember in the olden days, people used to say that even if you go into the Darbar of the Raja and the Maharaja and ring the bell, you will probably get the justice. Nowadays, so we are being Rajas and Maharajas. Probably if you fail to deliver justice, the justice can be provided only by
justice according to law.
And therefore,
justice should be according to law.
That's right. And so therefore,
law means what is constitution.
That's right, sir. But the law we make, and the justice is supposed to be dispensed through the institution of judiciary. But sir, the point I'm making is that definitely Parliament is supreme. Constitution has guaranteed that freedom to us. At the same time, we, being the Constituent Assembly, have also the right to change the Constitution. We have the ability to make laws, but those laws once made have to be interpreted and probably ensured that according to this law, whether the country is functioning or not, has to be guaranteed by the judiciary. Sir, I want to make a little different point on the relationship not only between judiciary and Parliament, which many of us have spoken. So I would like to speak about a relationship between executive and legislature. Sir, what is an executive? So executive becomes executive because as per our system, in other countries like for example in United States, executive cannot be a legislature. In fact, they have separated it so much that a legislator cannot become a member of the executive. That's by law. Sir, in India, we are saying that every executive member, particularly the ministers and the Prime Minister, had to be either a member of parliament when they become so, or within 6 months they have to become a member of parliament. So now, when we talk about executive becoming, primarily because they are legislators, they are becoming executive. So what should be the relationship between executive and parliament has to be revisited now after 60 years of experience that we have gathered. So we have been saying that in India, particularly India, the executive is so powerful, and I have been a member of the executive, so I can say that, and I am not trying to blame an executive presently sitting in the ruling parties. I am talking about executive as an institution. So we are saying that members of parliament are relegated to the position of making noise in the parliament, but not being heard. The voice never gets heard in the executive.
Why?
So we are
Why?
that executive...
No, you are making a point. I respect you so much. Question is, if the members are alert, they can put the executive into accountability. And only, please, you are a very senior, respected member, only to the executive, to the legislature, the executive is accountable for its every functioning. And once a judicial executive order is passed, the parliament cannot question that.
Sir, that's precisely the point I am trying to say. Sir, executive is supposed to be presided over by the elected members of parliament. But in reality, we are seeing that executive is being run by not the elected representatives, but by those who are appointed over a period of time, guaranteed by the constitution, their tenure, and therefore what we are really seeing in reality is that it's a travesty of justice that we are not being able to actually represent. The members of parliament are not really becoming the executive, but somebody else is assuming the role of executive. So it's a big challenge before us. How do we make sure that a spirit of constitution in ensuring that in a democracy that elected members of parliament will become real executive and they will really run the country? We have been saying that the judiciary is actually many times holds the executive responsible for many of the actions on which I think they preside over it, but not necessarily responsible for it. So I think we really need to demarcate it. And sir, how that can happen? In my opinion, sir, we have demarcated the responsibilities, we have separated the powers, but we have not codified the roles and responsibilities of individual functionaries of these particular different organs. For example, sir, member of parliament is expected not only to be a lawmaker, that we are primarily are, but also are expected to perform many other roles. The constituent expects from member of parliament to also fix the drainage, to also fix the water line, and do so many other things. Now, in the absence of proper codification, it becomes extremely difficult for either a member of parliament to know what his real role is, and also for the constituent to judge the performance of the elected representative. So I think, sir, it is a high time that we really need to now move towards moving away only from separation of responsibilities, but we must go into the issue of codification of responsibilities, roles, and functioning of individual functionaries of all these three, particularly between the executive and the legislature. In the absence of which, we always will find that maybe there is some conflict which will actually keep arising. Sir, there are already some issues which actually we really need to take into consideration. For example, shall take primacy of parliament. So policy making, whose responsibility it is? So we normally feel that executive make policy. Sir, actually speaking, executive by definition has to execute the decision. Because executive has to execute the decision, obviously the policy has to be made by somebody else. Now, in the absence of a vacuum, that is, in the absence of not codifying it and the vacuum being created, the judiciary is filling the vacuum by saying that we will make the policy. Sir, in the absence of that, if you really codify it and say that a parliament, it is their responsibility primarily to make policy on any subject. If the executive wants to make a policy, they are free to do it, place it before the parliament, but no policy document can ever be finalized and can be implemented unless it has the approval of the entire whole house of the parliament. And that's why, sir, we really need to do that, and therefore policy making is another area on which we probably will need some sort of a fundamental relook into this issue. Sir, we are always, as I was saying, that failure of institution gives rise to creation of vacuum, which is filled by whichever institution can do that job. In India, we are saying that judiciary is overacting, but sir, in my opinion, judiciary is actually trying to fill in the void. So in the 60th year of independence, so my request to you will be earnestly, because sir, you have been an extremely great lawyer of the country, you have been the speaker of the house, and therefore sir, you have actually been participating in all the three, in fact not really participating in executive, but you have been actually supervising the executive in some way. So my request will be, sir, in this 60th year of independence, we should set up a very high-powered committee consisting of members of parliament to relook into all these issues, and particularly how to increase the efficacy of members of parliament individually, because in the absence of that, you cannot say that as an institution we are very powerful, but individually we are totally powerless. How can that really be? Anytime it's a real contradiction itself, and therefore, sir, my request will be codification of responsibility is extremely important. So let me just give one or two examples. Sir, in United States, for example, a president of USA, which is supposed to be the most powerful man in the world, cannot even appoint his own minister. All the ministers that he appoints to his cabinet had to be confirmed by the Senate.
Including judges.
Including ambassadors. So why not we think about moving away to a system whereby the members of parliament as an institution, will be able to look into some of the functionaries who are actually the executive. Why should we not look into these issues in a separate way? I understand members of parliament being the ministers already, they need not be they are actually elected by the members. But I am talking about other important functionaries, and so this type of reform is really called for. Yes. Because otherwise, sir, we are seeing that maybe we are succeeding as a democracy, but individual functionaries of these institutions are not able to perform as effectively as they would otherwise like to play. And therefore, sir, my last request would be that the standing committees that we have are really important institutions through which we really operate and transact the business of the House in a very significant way. So we really need to move towards second generation standing committees, in which these standing committees then will be able to play a more proactive role, and that's what is really needed to be done. So I'm very happy that I could speak on a subject like this, thanks to you. Yeah. Also because my predecessor once, who contested the election from my constituency, Mr. Nathpai, also used to speak on this subject. Maybe I was not present at that time, but I hope I continue this tradition of speaking on a subject which is so dear to his heart. Now he's no longer living, but I'm sure my constituent will be happy if I can perform a role that they expect from me, and that can happen only if we bring about a radical change the way we really function. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.